Sure.
Hello, people. Welcome to Main Event Boxing Talk in these troubled times. How are you, Tom?
I'm healthy and well, and I hope the same for you and
Yes, my friend.
everybody else out there. And everybody else out there.
Right, let's address this this virtual boxing tournament that the WBSS have done. The first matches that we had was Lennox Lewis against Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier won. Mike Tyson wipes out Butterbean in 2 rounds. Foreman beats David Haye in 5 rounds. And Muhammad Ali won his first fight. Who did he fight in his first fight?
Didn't he fight Evander Holyfield?
Sorry, yeah, he stopped Evander Holyfield.
Yeah. Well, well, what can you say? It was entertaining.
Oh, it was hilarious. The next fight was that Joe Frazier beat Lennox Lewis.
I don't know how that could happen in real life.
I mean, ridiculous. Then we have Joe Frazier faking having a pretend injury. So then drafted in was who was the semi-final against? Ali against Liston. So Liston was drafted in instead of Frazier.
Right. Well, let's talk about that injury Joe Frazier had. Most people don't know that Joe Frazier, at one point early in his career, got thumbed in his right eye and was considered legally blind in his right eye. And they kept that a secret, that injury a secret. And the reason Eddie Futch stopped that fight in the Thrilla in Manila was because that right eye, which was the left eye was closing, and the right eye, he was starting to see out of the right eye. Right eye was also closing, but he can only see out of his right eye. And that's why he was getting hit by Ali in that 13th round so much. And that's why Frazier didn't want it stopped, but they did stop it in the 14th round, I believe. And but that's why, because Eddie Futch knew about that injury and didn't want to send them out for the last round. And that's why the fight was stopped. So
yeah.
That's not common knowledge, actually. So, but in all fairness, I mean, Lennox Lewis and Joe Frazier. I mean, Lennox Lewis was so much bigger and longer. It would be like fighting it would be Joe Frazier like fighting George Foreman. It just wouldn't have worked out.
So in the other semi-final, we got George Foreman against Mike Tyson. David Haye, I believe he would have beaten that old version of Foreman he fought on the game in real life. The older Foreman.
Possible. Possible. I mean, Foreman did hit like a battering ram.
Oh, he did.
I mean, if you want to, what?
Yeah, he hit like a train, but the old Foreman was slow, very slow. Haye would have been too fast for him.
Yes, true. But I mean, if you look at Michael Moorer, who he beat for the title, Michael Moorer was very fast and a southpaw, and Foreman was able to knock him out.
Yeah,
you never know.
Fluke. I still think that win was a fluke, even to this day. Good win.
Well, it was a KO. KO's a KO.
Yeah. Well, whenever I watch that fight, I laughed when I watched it the first time 20 years ago. I saw it like 6 years after it happened on a VHS I got while I was in New Zealand. I was shocked at how silly, out of shape he looked. And then you look at Moore, it's like, nah. It's Andy Ruiz kind of. Would you say that was as big a win as Andy Ruiz beating Joshua, or not as big, in your opinion?
It was a long shot for sure, but Foreman was always like close to winning the title. When he fought Evander Holyfield, nobody expected him to put up the fight he did. And he was crunching, he got hit a lot, which is true. But he was crunching Holyfield on a couple of points in the fight. So It's,
But
I always gave him a puncher's chance, and I knew going into that fight that Mora had, he didn't have the best of chins.
yeah, what was
So,
your thoughts when Foreman made his comeback in '88? Obviously, he'd been out the ring 10 years, and he was only 36 years old. Well, he wasn't an old man, was he? People talk about him when he came back at 37, he was an old man.
well, he was grossly out of shape, and 36 is old to come back. He was out of the ring, what, 10 years,
Yeah,
9 years?
but
I mean, that's such a long time for a
but,
fighter.
but these days, if you're a heavyweight, 38's not old, is it? If you look at the top fighters in terms of what
Uh,
they're doing now with medicine.
yeah, but they don't fight as much. That's one thing. Second of all, he wasn't staying in shape. Foreman was not in shape to fight. Uh, in the beginning, he started getting back into boxing because he needed money for his church.
Yeah.
And he was so overweight when he came back. But, he fought his way into shape. He kept fighting consistently. People wanted to see him because, of who he was. And then eventually he just kept getting in better and better shape. And there were a
Basically,
couple of,
this would be like Vitaly Klitschko coming back now, wouldn't it? If Vitaly Klitschko ever came back, he's fine.
yeah, well, Vitaly Klitschko hasn't been out of the ring as long, and he also keeps himself in shape.
Hmm.
Foreman didn't keep himself in shape. So it took a while for him to get back into shape. And he did it a lot by fighting. He fought a lot of, guys that weren't that good in the beginning, and he just
Yeah.
pounded them.
So
So,
in this
I don't know
tournament,
if it was, to answer your question, I don't know if it was big of a surprise as Andy Ruiz. I don't think anybody really gave Ruiz a chance at all. But it wasn't as shocking.
no.
And everybody was very happy for George to win the title because he
But,
had changed so much.
I mean, everybody knew Ruiz was dangerous. Everybody knew that. We
Yes.
didn't think he would flatten Joshua. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so in the semi-final, let me just get this.
That's George Foreman calling up to complain.
Sod him. Right. So basically, this Foreman Tyson semi-final. I think Foreman will win the semi-final on this game.
Well, that was a fight that Tyson never wanted. He never wanted to get in the ring with George Foreman. He kept saying, I don't want to beat up an old man. But the fact of the matter is, Tyson's style at the time was perfect for George Foreman. George Foreman had the long reach. He can punch down on him. And it would have been a tough fight for Mike.
So you're liking it to Deontay Wilder fighting Tyson Fury, in effect. Is that the best way to put it?
I don't know if I'd say that. I mean, those are two different breeds of fighters in top condition. During that time, George Foreman kept calling for Mike Tyson, and Tyson wouldn't fight him. He says, I don't want to hurt an old man, but I think it would have been much different. I mean, if you watch him against Holyfield and then Tyson was smaller than Holyfield.
But the problem was that fight took past 5 years later in different circumstances. And Foreman, I believe that old Foreman wouldn't have beaten a prime Mike Tyson from '89.
Well, that I would tend to agree with that.
But the oldest version in '95, yeah.
The thing is that style-wise, it would have been great to see because of the size difference and the way that they fought. And Foreman may have had a shot at him, I believe, at
this
that
whole
time.
Tournament, the fact that Ali is already in the final and this is called the Ali Trophy, this tournament's fixed. It's so obvious they're going to give it to Ali. He's going to win. It's so obvious that it'll be a Foreman Ali final.
Well, we know what happened in real life, right?
The same thing's going to happen again.
Yeah, they're not going to do that.
So we have a tournament of, how can I put this, dead greats. Why is Jack Johnson? You would have thought they would put Jack Johnson here. He's actually on the video game, Jack Johnson, and they would have put Rocky in it as well.
Or Gene Tunney,
Yeah, some of the older time heavyweights.
Or the
Boxing,
Manasseh Mauler, you know.
you can't have a tournament without Rocky Marciano, or without Jack Johnson. You can't have these guys.
You know, you know how I feel about Rocky Marciano. He doesn't get the respect he's
Oh,
due.
he never will. Great fighter.
Yeah. It is what it is, you know.
Okay.
It's entertainment. It's like a video game, right?
Yeah.
So
In
this
other
whole
news-
thing,
Sorry.
I was going to say, on a change of subject here, this whole thing with the boar meat scandal for Tyson Fury is all squashed now because of the virus.
Yeah.
You know, the whole board is closed down, and this whole story is going to go away now.
But for me, Tyson Fury, it's a witch hunt. Nobody wants to see him succeed. When he was, I remember not too long ago, if I say 6, 7 years ago, people were so down on this man. I've been a fan of him since the day he turned, the first time I saw him in 2010. And I stuck by him, as a fan. He's a great fighter. And anything now is just to try and discredit him. Even Deontay Wilder trying to discredit him, It's embarrassing stuff. Any normal fighter like Ali, the old greats, if they lost, they accepted it. And they went away and worked on what they needed to work on. They didn't sit around moping about it looking for excuses.
Well, I didn't follow him until later in his career. I think the first time I saw him fight was against the former cruiserweight champion, and he got knocked down.
Oh, Steve King.
Yeah, and that was a bad knockdown, but he got up, and then he came back and pummeled him. So I was not sold on him at that point, but I sure am now. I got to give him a lot of credit. These last
when
few
he
fights.
fought Derek Chisora in 2013 to become the #1 contender, that performance told me all I needed to know, how good he really was. I'd seen flashes of him. That was his best performance before he fought Klitschko. Then the Klitschko performance, after the Klitschko performance, then I started to really believe, But the fact that he went away for the best part of 2 or 3 years, came back and won the world title again, he's
That was
the
amazing.
only second heavyweight in history to hold all 4 titles, not at the same time, but simultaneously. The other guy is Riddick Bowe, to hold all the 4 sanctioning body belts.
Yeah, Riddick Bowe, what a great fighter he was. He avoided Lennox Lewis, though. He didn't want to.
But we know how that would have ended.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lennox Lewis just had it. Sometimes in fighters, they meet fighters that just got their number, psychologically and stylistically.
Right.
Right. Anyway, in other news, Dave Allen has signed with MTK Global.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
I think it's an interesting signing, but I don't think MTK Global are going to use him the right way. I think he will just be an enhancement box, losing to the stars of boxing.
Well, it'll be a good money thing for him, and that's probably why it's a good thing.
I think with Eddie Hearn, he had more opportunities. Eddie Hearn could have made him a British champion if he got the right fights. He's still got the ability to do it, but now I just don't think. I think he's lost too many fights now to really go anywhere in his career.
Yeah, he's lost 5, right? He's like 18-5, something like that.
But I don't even think he's British level. I think he's English level. Just a little bit better than English level. So
you think they signed him to make him an opponent?
Yeah. I don't think this is the right thing for his career. Eddie Hearn has looked after him for the last 3 or 4 years. Eddie Hearn has helped him tremendously. I think Eddie Hearn, could have kept him on fights. He's a ticket seller. Dave Allen, people like watching the guy fight. I'm a fan of him as well, I think he should have stayed with Eddie Hearn and,
Well, it's money, right? It's money.
But it's also the long-term effect. The long-term effect is, if he goes with MTK Global and loses any more fights, his stock's going to go down even further than what it is now. So yeah. I think he'll be back with Eddie Hearn within a year.
You know, maybe, maybe not. I think, how long is the contract for?
You have a look. Let's have a look. I've had all the money and titles in the world. It doesn't say, but I think he's going to be taking a lot more leather and a few more defeats. After he loses a few more fights, surely you can't market him any further. You can't rebuild him anymore than what he has been rebuilt.
Right. Well, you know, it probably has something to do with how much he's going to get paid. And, you know, he may just cash out.
I hope
He's
he
not,
does. You know, I don't think he's got that many more fights left in him. You know, with the tough career he's had, he's taken some beatings. He's got no defence. He's taken a lot of unnecessary punishment in his career. You know, I don't think he can take much more.
well, how many did it say how long?
No, it didn't say anything, how many years or anything. But
It's probably like a three fight deal or something like that.
then he'll be back to
You
it.
know, yeah,
But
and
with
that,
someone
well,
like Dave Allen, if you're someone like him, you need to be fighting at a reasonably lower sort of level, to build him up.
right,
Then
that's
cash him
right.
out, then retire, walk away. Eddie
Yeah,
Hearn's probably
well,
thought, I'll cut my losses.
probably, you know, because where is he going to go with them?
Could win a British title, but if he was very lucky, if he was matched correctly.
Well, he's where he's at now, and hopefully he could get out and cash out in a couple of fights, and you know, good luck to him. That's the best we could say on this kind of a situation.
What else have you seen this week in other news?
Well, Ring Magazine had an interesting article on how the Spanish flu affected boxing in 1918. And they were showing photographs of people at ringside wearing masks in 1918. And, you know, the Spanish flu is estimated to kill up to 50 million people. I don't know if you knew that. And I'm in Philly right now, and they were told not to hold a parade in Philly, and they held it anyway. And a lot of people got sick and died here back then. So, you know, this wasn't the first time something like this happened, and where boxing was canceled. And some of famous fighters like Harry Greb succumbed to the Spanish flu. He was the former light heavyweight and middleweight champion. He fought a lot of famous guys. He had 107 wins and 8 TKOs, eight losses and 3 draws. That's a great record. And he fought some of the greatest guys like Gene Tunney and what's his name, Jack Dempsey, and all of these different guys on the way up. A lot. If you look at his record, I mean, he's just like, it's a who's who of that time, of all these great fighters. So that's a great record he had. And a lot of times he fought the same guys, which was common back then, because they would fight each other to make money when nobody else would fight, the top contenders. But he succumbed to a respiratory illness of the Spanish flu at a hospital, when he went in for an operation on his eyes. His eyes got beat up in boxing, and he lost one of his eyes. And then when we had HIV, in the 80s, they didn't know how to handle the blood in the ring, and trainers and everybody had to start wearing gloves. And Roberto Duran went to see, the guy he fought for one of the lightweight titles, Esteban de Jesus, the first guy to beat him.
Yeah.
And he had HIV. He was dying of AIDS, and there's a famous picture of him.
Yeah, I've seen
embracing him. Yeah. So there was a lot of fear in the boxing community back then too, because you get cut and another fighter gets cut, and there was all of these things of how are they going to fight with cuts, and how are they going to handle the blood, and all this fear at the time, and a lot of unknowns about HIV. So, that epidemic was terrible too. That's killed about 35 million people, and it's still
Jesus,
counting. In other parts of the world, in Africa,
crazy.
people get AIDS a lot because they don't use condoms, and so it's still big in Africa. So that was affecting sports too. It affected basketball. It affected, like when Magic Johnson got it, nobody wanted to play with him because they were afraid of if he got cut, he would bleed on them. So
Isn't it?
it's not the first time we've had to deal with stuff like this in sports. And
Crazy. Let me see what else there was. Uh,
one way to slow it down. But, it'll come back. Boxing will come back. But it's affecting bouts like Billy Joe Saunders and Canelo now, right?
I have to
Like
be honest, it is a bit annoying because obviously, this is bigger than boxing, and boxing's not the only thing in the world. This is more
Right.
important than boxing. Currently.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you remember Derek Jefferson. He was a heavyweight.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Fought in the 90s. He's sick right now. He's fighting for his life.
Oh,
I don't know if he passed on yet. But,
wasn't he
you
a
got to do
heavyweight?
what's. Yes. I forget. He fought a couple of. He was in a couple of really rough and tumble fights.
James Fonda, yeah.
Yeah. He also fought Klitschko, Vladimir Klitschko.
In the
And,
90s, from what I've seen.
right. He
Let's see.
was a tough guy.
Wanted to bring one thing up. Something I've been thinking about the last couple of days. Would you call, and this is not meant as an insult, Anthony Joshua is a poor man's Vladimir Klitschko? Would you agree with that?
A poor man's Vladimir Klitschko. Well, he did stop Vladimir Klitschko, and I got to say, Klitschko was in good shape for that fight. It wasn't like, there were any excuses going into that fight. He did come in and was in good shape, and he had Joshua down, and Joshua got up and came back. So
obviously, it's probably a bit premature for me to say that in terms of the time. Klitschko was 40 years old. Joshua was a rookie still.
Yeah, and so I think because Joshua lost to Ruiz in the way he lost, he's lost some prestige in people's eyes. The thing is, somebody in boxing told me this, somebody whose name I won't mention, but they told me this: the bigger you are, the bigger the target you are. So when you get up to the top of that mountain, staying there is harder than getting there. And then you have everybody, they're all building you up on the way up. And when you're up there, they're also trying to tear you down. So I think his legacy is not ready to be judged yet. When this whole thing blows over, there's a lot of good fights out there for him. And, what if he fights Tyson Fury and beats him? Then he's, everybody is going to be on his side again. Right? Or if he comes back and he knocks out Deontay Wilder, everybody will be on his side again. So that's the way the public is. And he's a very talented, strong fighter, strong puncher, an excellent boxer. So we'll see. His only weakness really is his chin and his defense when he gets hurt. So I don't know about that. I don't think it's an insult. I think it's premature.
Yeah. Jeez, that's crazy.
And now we might have the Olympics canceled, right?
I think we have to be realistic about it. I mean, the wrestling, they're continuing to go, the WWE.
Do they have audiences?
No audience. But I still think it's cringeworthy. I mean, we know Vince McMahon is a corrupt guy. Let's not lie about it. He openly used to let his wrestlers take steroids. Anyone with this kind of, morals. I just think he should be thinking about his performance, not the performance of fake wrestling.
Well, I agree, but money. Wrestlers are not on salary. They get to perform too, right? I mean, they got it.
Basically, they're on
I
guaranteed
don't know, man.
contracts, right? Some of these guys are on 500 grand a year, and the lower guys are on like 200 grand a year. But then all their expenses come out of what they earn. So if you earn 250 grand a year, you'll only be earning like 100 because all your expenses, tax.
Well, yeah, uh, it's a tough thing. You know, people want to work. They need to work,
I
and
mean,
they think,
they're
well, I'm
classed as
not.
independent contractors. So the
Exactly.
WWE got out of it legally, so they don't have to pay them anything.
Well, I'm an independent contractor, and let me tell you, you know, as a musician, all my jobs are canceled from April through May, and the
It's
ones
awful.
after that are up in the air. So I'm not bringing in any income, and that sucks. You know, if I
Not
didn't
good.
have some reserves, I'd be in big trouble. So, you know, I understand wanting to work and needing to work, but also, you know, is it worth it to spread the disease around? That's the other side of the coin, right?
Yeah.
It's a tough call, but it is what it is, and fighters are no different. I mean, you know, in order for Canelo to get paid his next 32 million, he's got to fight. He's got to fight Billy Joe, and GGG just got to fight his defense that he got injured for, and they're going to meet again. The Zone announced that the third one is going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other story. But you know, they both got to get past those guys. So we'll
Crazy.
see. I mean, I think GGG will have it easier than Canelo will with Billy Joe, and this gives Billy Joe more time to train, which is good, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I think it favors Billy Joel the delay more than it does Canelo. Canelo was already training, and I don't think Billy Joel was. See, I think that's the thing with Canelo. He stays in shape. He takes very little time off, and then all of a sudden they make a deal, and the other fighter may not be in shape, and it's like
I
eight
don't
weeks
think
or
Billy,
10
I
weeks
think
out.
Billy is similar to Tyson. You know, got so much ability, but no, Canelo's a different breed of fighter to Billy.
A what?
Different breed of fighter.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's that. He's always, he's very professional. He keeps his eye on the ball. He stays in shape and in between fights, and he starts training early to get his weight down. And he has to, because this contract he has, if he keeps winning, he keeps making $32 million a fight to finish his contract.
Crazy.
So DAZN has put the pressure on him to fight Golovkin again, pending they both win their interim fights. And what do you think? You think Canelo's going to knock Golovkin out this time?
Uh, yeah, can I be honest? I don't really want to see a third fight. I don't think we need to see it. We know who the better fighter is.
Mhm.
This is just a license to print money, this fight, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think GGG has stayed in shape. I think he just wants this fight, and I think he's going to cash in.
Another
That's it.
loss on his record, and, there's no coming back from that. He should probably retire soon anyway.
Well, he only had this one loss on a split decision.
Yeah.
He never lost before that. And, a lot of people think that he won the first fight. I'm one of them.
I
And I
think
thought
that's
the
a
second
matter of
fight was a
opinion,
draw.
my friend. That's a matter of opinion.
Well, I agree, but that's my opinion.
Well, I wholeheartedly disagree with you.
That's
Right, let's
okay.
see. What else was there in the news? Because we're very short
Uh,
of any sort of news.
well, Mayweather, there were rumors he was going to fight again, but since his uncle died, and before that his
Did we
former
mention that on our last show? We
wife
didn't.
died.
When did Roger die?
We didn't have Roger Mayweather, at that time as passing, but his former not wife, but the mother of his three children. I wonder if they ever found out what happened to her. I didn't hear anything. I'm going to look it up right now. Do you know?
It's a bit strange, isn't it? But
Yeah.
let's discuss Roger Mayweather's career. I mean, I'm just going to go.
Oh,
To, I have to be honest. I never saw the guy fight. No, I'm not being disrespectful. I never saw him fight.
I saw him fight a number of times. I saw
How
him
good
fight
was he?
Chavez, actually.
How good was he, Roger Mayweather? I
Well,
mean, I know he's a great
he
trainer.
he was a guy. Well, he was a terrific right hand puncher. Terrific, and he could KO you. He was good at KOing people, or he got KO'd. You know, it was either you or him in the ring, and he was fun to watch. So
Was
he was
better?
a two-time champion.
Wasn't he better than his older brother, than Floyd Senior? He was much better. Floyd Senior was never a champion, was he?
Well, Floyd Senior may have been. Well, Floyd Senior fought Sugar Ray Leonard, and it was competitive, although Sugar Ray was better.
And didn't he have another
but
brother as well? That was a world champion. Is it Jeff Mayweather?
I don't know if Jeff ever
Yeah,
beat
Jeff
Kane.
was a world champion, I think.
I'm not sure if Jeff Mayweather. I didn't follow him. Hold on a second. Let me see.
I think he was. He was IBO or something.
Yeah, it was one of he wasn't. I don't remember him as being a phenomenal fighter. He's a trainer now.
He's the youngest of the brothers, wasn't he?
He won he lost the super featherweight. He won the IBO World Super Featherweight Championship.
And then that was it. But that's still pretty impressive. And the World Boxing Board title. I'm just going to look at his older brother's record. Obviously, Floyd is the oldest by some years.
Right.
How old was Roger? Roger was the second. So let's have a look at Floyd Senior's record.
Roger had the best career of all of them.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
But I remember when he got KO'd by Rocky Lockridge. Or I may have seen a clip of that. But then
it says here,
the fight with Chavez, he had Chavez in trouble.
It says here Floyd Mayweather Senior only had 3 fights.
That's right, and then he went to prison.
I'm shocked. Oh, okay, didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, if you look at the competition that Roger had, it was very good guys he fought, and some of them he beat. He beat Pazienza. You know, he lost to Chavez twice, but he hurt Chavez.
Was he the first trainer of his nephew, or was it Floyd Mayweather Senior first? It was Roger.
Senior was, but then Roger took over. Roger took Floyd through about 36 fights. You know, he had 52. So if you do the math on that, he did 36 out of the 52. So there was 16 fights?
So it was really Roger who did all the hard work for him, wasn't it? It was Roger that helped him get as good as he got, I believe.
Right. What happened was when he went to prison, Roger took over. And then when he got out of prison, the father came back, and then the father and son couldn't work together anymore. So he fired his father and took Roger back. And then towards the end, he let his father train him, for a couple of fights?
Did his dad train him for the McGregor fight? So I couldn't remember, or was he in the corner?
McGregor, I think he trained them.
But Roger was very ill, wasn't he? He had diabetes and some other stuff wrong with him.
Well, part of it also, he was getting punchy in his later years from, I think he was developing Parkinson's. I'm not sure.
I've seen videos of him where he didn't even talk. You know, he was with Repo Rick. Repo Rick used to be a member of the Mayweather team. He's a Puerto Rican man, very talented individual. He's the trainer of Chris Lovejoy. You know, the heavyweight Chris Lovejoy.
Yeah.
So, and there's bits in it where Roger, he doesn't want to be on the camera. He's like, get that camera away from me.
Right. You know, one of the reasons why, and Floyd even mentioned why he retired, is because he saw what boxing had done to his uncle Roger,
Yeah,
and he didn't want to stay in the game too long.
yeah.
And you know, that's true, but they were different. They were different levels. I mean, Mayweather Jr., you know, Floyd Mayweather Jr. was just
An elite
cut
fighter.
from a stone. He was, yeah, he started, and Roger, really, a lot of credit has got to go to Roger,
Oh yeah,
um,
definitely.
because of what he did, you know, for Floyd.
I mean, Floyd is an all-time great. You know, he's got a lot, you know, to thank his uncle for.
I agree, and he always got along well with his uncle. They didn't have those kind of fights, and he said about his nephew. He says, you know, Floyd, he never had to get on Floyd's back to train. Floyd always trained. He would stay in shape between fights. He would come in. He knew what to do. It was easy to train him, and you know, and just make him do the things. You know, just monitor the things he had to do and strategize with him, and he never had a problem getting Floyd to train.
Hmm.
Floyd knew what it took, what he needed to do in order to win, and that was that. And he said he never had a problem with them. So that goes a lot. You know, that says a lot. So you should go back and watch his second fight with Julio Cesar Chavez, because there's a couple of times where I thought he really stung Chavez, but he was able to stand up to that punch. They called him the Mexican assassin at one point because he was fighting a lot of Mexican fighters and beating them.
Crazy.
He was exciting to watch. So go back, go on YouTube. You'll find some of his fights.
I will do. Yeah, I'm gonna have a look. I didn't know Floyd had a younger brother called Justin who was a fighter.
No, I didn't know that either. But it's, you know, it's hard living in Floyd's shadow.
He's
I
an
mean,
illegitimate child. Illegitimate.
oh, illegitimate?
Yeah.
Well, okay. I don't think Floyd was ever married.
I know he had a lot of kids or whatever. Floyd Senior. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he was ever married. So uh, let's see if we could find out. 3 days ago. Well, supposedly she was writing a book about the abuse and the story, you know, of what was going on. But that may not be true. It says here Josie Harris was about to release a no holds barred
Yeah.
book narrating the abuse she experienced at the hands of retired boxing great prior to her death.
Mm.
But that wouldn't have stopped the book from coming out. That'll just make the book sell more. I think we're going to find out, you know, there was some kind of cause unrelated to anything, any kind of suspicious stuff. They still haven't found what the cause of death is.
It's all suspicious, and then you know.
Initially, it was well, Floyd's a magnet for press, so we'll see what it's all about. Who the hell knows? So they haven't completed the autopsy yet.
Very sad, and you know, very sad.
You know, it could have been, you know, sometimes people get, what do you call those? The
I mean, I'm not going
clots.
to comment
They get
on
an
the.
embolism, a blood clot to the brain, and boom.
But all I'll say is, out of respect for the Mayweather family, I don't want to say anything, you know, disrespectful or anything what it could be or what it wasn't. You know, it's not my place to say what it was. You know, just out of respect.
Even no matter what, out of respect for the woman, you know, and the family, God rest her soul. All of this other stuff is just speculation and gossip at this point. and Roger too. Roger was really he embodied boxing in every way, you know, in his career and his training and everything else. And you know what? He didn't drive a wedge between his brother and his son. They never fought over him. It was all Floyd's decision of who he was going to train with. So you know they were brothers. They kept it. They kept out of it with each other, and that was it. So I just wish them all well, and we'll see what happens. So we don't even have anything really to talk about.
I'm going to find something. Don't worry, I'm going to find something.
Yeah.
God.
I'm on Fight News right now. Let's see what they said today. What's the boxing buzz today? You know, the WBC are having things going on. Oh, that says the Ali Frazier 4 is off due to unforeseen circumstances.
Ali Frazier 4.
Yeah, so that's why they put Sonny Liston in.
The real reason was because fans wanted to see Liston in the ring more. So the fans voted to see Liston. They started a revolt, so they didn't want to see Frazier.
Man, you know, I got to tell you, you weren't born then, but I remember the anticipation for that Sonny Liston fight, the first one. And I mean, almost everybody was saying, then called Cassius Clay, before he came out as Muhammad Ali. Everybody thought he was going to get killed. Yeah. Everybody thought he was crazy, the way he was acting. I mean, he brought a lot of people back to boxing. And I was listening to that fight on the radio as a kid. And one of the things that also brought them to my attention was the Beatles went down to when they were in Miami and they visited him. And there was this footage of them in the news fooling around with Cassius Clay and hanging out, you know, these young guys, you know, in their early 20s, joking around like they were the, you know, comedy, the Marx Brothers or something with Cassius Clay, and they were all getting down, you know. But man, after that first round, and by the third round, it was like, oh my God, he's busting up Sonny. And then, you know, that crazy round where he lost his eyesight, and then they stopped the fight. It was like, oh my God. And then they analyzed it on Wide World of Sports. They had Rocky Marciano. I've been looking for this thing. Rocky Marciano was on Wide World of Sports. I can't find the video on YouTube. And they were breaking down what Sonny Liston was doing wrong in the fight and what Rocky Marciano would have done. But, you know, Rocky Marciano wasn't in the ring with Cassius Clay.
How good was Sonny Liston? Because I really don't have a clue, really. You know, I've obviously seen two of his fights in color. But there was,
okay. Watch his fight with Cleveland Williams on YouTube. With Cleveland Williams, because he walked right through Patterson twice. But watch his fight with Cleveland Williams. Cleveland Williams was a big guy. He was bigger than Ali, and he was a devastating puncher.
Was he similar in size to what's his name, to Ernie Tyrell?
Yeah, but I think he was a better puncher than Terrell and faster. And you know, when Ali, you know, fought him, he was starting to peak. You saw? Did you ever see him fight? Him? I'm sorry. What did you say?
Which fight?
Cleveland Williams. You ever see Ali fight Cleveland Williams?
I've seen the clips of it, and I tell you what, Ali destroyed him. He beat the hell out of him, didn't he?
Well, yes. Well, to answer your question, watch that fight. Sonny Liston was a good boxer. He wasn't fast, you know, like Ali was fast, but he had such a strong punch, and he had very good technique. You know, he was a good boxer with very, very, very strong punching power. And huge hands. I mean, his hand huge.
I'm just watching it
and
now.
And he had a left jab that was pulverizing. Mm-hmm.
I'm just watching it in color now. There's somebody's colorized the fight. I'll just watch it now, and I can see that he's very aggressive, Liston. You know, Would he be like what? Who would he be like today in terms of style-wise?
Well, style-wise, the way he fought style-wise, I would put him more like, it's hard to say because I wouldn't put him like anywhere like Deontay Wilder. You know, Deontay is the type of boxer he was, or even you know, Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury similar fought Wilder this time, I would say. He had those long pulverizing punches. Tyson Fury isn't super fast, but he has such long arms, right? So they're similar kind of. Um, you know, he's not as big as those guys. That's the thing. He's smaller, and I don't know. Probably I'd have to look at some of the cruiserweights. You know, some of the Russian. What's that Russian cruiserweight that just signed with somebody?
Not Gassiev.
Yeah,
Gassiev.
similar to Gassiev, I would say,
Really? Oh.
but a better boxer.
I mean, obviously, if listeners around today, he'd be a cruiserweight, wouldn't he? Probably.
Right.
You know, barely.
Right.
I found Rocky against Walcott in colour.
Yeah, that's the first one or the second one.
I think this is the second one.
No, watch the first one, because in the first one he gets knocked down and his nose is broken, and then he winds up with the 13, you know, a cut that took 13 stitches to close, and he keeps fighting until he knocks him out. That's the one you want to watch. Then you see how strong Marciano is. And Walcott is beating the hell out of him that fight until the very end.
Right, we'll finish off on a classic fight, which I wanted to talk about.
Say that again.
This is a classic fight that we both watched. So this is from 2004. This was Corey Sanders against Vitaly Klitschko. Do you remember that fight?
Vitaly or Vladimir?
Vitaly against Corey Sanders. This was the vacant WBC title. And Corey Sanders gets stopped tonight. This was a brilliant fight. You know, the plot line, brother to avenge his brother's defeat, you know. He beat the tar.
I saw both fights with both. Yes. Well, I have to say this. Number one, Sanders was in shape for the first fight with Vladimir and just crunched him. Just did everything right, you know, cut him, knocked him down, really hurt him bad. The second fight, he was not in shape. He was nowhere near in the same shape as the first fight. And, you know, you believe.
I believe that if this man, Corey Sanders, had taken his career more seriously, he would have been more dominant. You know, he would have been champion for much longer. But he never took it seriously. He was more interested in playing golf.
He was a devastating puncher.
Oh, he had so much talent, though, didn't he? So much raw talent.
He did. And to tell you the truth, there was one time during that fight, he caught Vitaly and he backed him off a couple of times. But he just didn't have the stamina to hang in there and go the distance with him. And that's what did him in.
By that time,
those brothers
when he beat Vladimir, he was in his late 30s, at least 37, or something like that at that age. You know, he'd been around the block. He'd fought Johnny Nelson. You know, he'd been around a long time. And do you remember that fight he had with Hazim Rahman?
I certainly do.
So, and then Vitaly, he did look vulnerable in this fight, didn't he? At points, like you said, he did. I mean, Sanders hit him with a good few shots. I think it was the third or fourth round. Like you say, he stunned him and then he backed up.
Right. The main thing is no matter how much power you have to be in shape. It doesn't matter. You know, you could get the lucky punch maybe in the first couple of rounds, but if the other guy's a good boxer and is in shape, you're going to run out of gas. And that's exactly what happened. You know, it's exactly what happened. So it was interesting. I didn't expect him to take him out in the first fight that way, but second fight was disappointing because he wasn't in shape for me.
But
So.
what this fight highlighted in Vladimir was how vulnerable he was, how bad his defence was. Because before that loss, you know, before he had Emmanuel Stewart, his defence was pretty awful, wasn't it? To be honest, you know, and he didn't protect his chin. But when he went with Emmanuel Stewart, it's like he learned how to box defensively, you know, effectively. He changed his style.
Yes, that was a big thing because he was still, well, he had more of a European amateur style. That was the problem.
But there are things I've seen clips of Emmanuel Stewart saying, "You need to knock him out. What the hell are you doing?" You know.
Well, Nan, he would say that. Which fight was this? The Corey Sanders fight?
No, when he fought, God, I can't remember. Jesus, I think it was against. And my memory's so shot with this because Stewart died in 2012, didn't he? Yeah. So
yeah.
it would have been before that. It would have been 2011 against. You know, I can't even. Jesus, my memory's. But he was in one fight.
I remember him screaming at Lennox Lewis when he was fighting Mike Tyson to stay away from the right hand. He was screaming at him not to play with him, you know, and he actually started cursing. Because he knew, you know, if Tyson caught him on the chin with that right hand, it was going to be a problem.
The only reason Lennox Lewis went to Emmanuel Stewart was because he was the guy he masterminded Oliver McCall's win over. So Stewart knew Lewis's vulnerabilities. He knew his style, how vulnerable he was. You know, Lewis never had a great chin, did he? You know, he'll be the first to tell you the truth.
Well, you know, he could stand up to a punch, but when you get hit that
hard, yeah.
Cleanly, when you drop, you're kind of an amateur, and you're moving in and you get caught coming in, you're going to get hurt no matter who hits you. So, you know, it depends on how you get hit. So it's better not to get hit because any heavyweight, if you're wide open for a good straight right hand, you're going to get hurt. You're going to at least go down or go on Queer Street. But the thing is that just think about what it takes for a fighter's ego to say, you know what, there's something wrong. I have to change trainers. This is not working for me.
Louis,
and you got to like put everything
swallow his
behind
pride.
you and go, okay.
To swallow his pride.
Sure he did. But he knew, you know, if he wanted to be champion, he had to change.
Definitely. Right. I'm just going to stop recording. In these difficult times, we shall be back probably next week sometime.
Sounds good to me.
Stay on the line anyway.
Everybody, all right, everybody take care and stay well.